Hello, my name's DM Tran. I'm from Cancer Council SA, and today I'll be talking about Cancer Council services and ways that we can reduce or minimise our risk of developing cancer. Our office is based in Eastwood in Adelaide, just on Green Hill Road. Clients or patients or community members are welcome to come into our office. Otherwise, we do have a telephone service on 13 11 20, and our cancer nurses are very familiar with utilising TIS or translating and interpreting services. So you're welcome to utilise that service to reach out to Cancer Council as well. Essentially, my role, I'm the Community Education Coordinator. I look after our prevention programs and services at Cancer Council, and as part of that unit or department, we deliver programs that help communicate and raise awareness about ways that we can reduce our risk of developing cancer. So cancer is a disease that affects many members of our community. We know that in Australia, at least 1 in 2 Australians are diagnosed with cancer. So if you haven't had cancer yourselves, it is quite common for people to know of somebody or have a friend or a family member having been diagnosed with cancer. Essentially today I am talking specifically about our prevention programs though, and in particular ways that we can actually prevent or reduce our risk of developing cancer. So we know that in Australia around 1/3 or 1 in 3 newly diagnosed cancers are potentially preventable through lifestyle risk factors. So those risk factors include healthy eating, physical activity, smoking, alcohol, healthy weight, and sun exposure or too much sun exposure. So I'll go through them one by one and talk to them and explain a little bit more about each of those risk factors to help raise awareness about ways that we can minimise or reduce the number of South Australians who are impacted by cancer in our community. So starting off with tobacco smoking, it is actually the leading cause of cancer incidence in South Australia, and we know that it actually impacts not just lung cancer. Lung cancer is very commonly known to be associated with smoking, but actually up to 15 different types of cancers around the body, ranging from the mouth and the pharynx all the way through to bowel cancer and in your intestines as well. So it's a cancer that, those cancers are largely preventable, and so if you're a non-smoker or if you've given up smoking, fantastic, well done. And if you are currently a smoker, we know that it's never too late to quit smoking or to give it up. Quitline is a service that Cancer Council operates. It's a free service. The Quitline counsellors are also familiar with using TIS services or translating services. So you're also welcome to utilise those services if you wish to. And we do encourage you to, because we know smoking can impact on our cancer risk quite remarkably. So in addition to that, we also recommend avoiding secondhand smoke. So if you do have family or friends that are smokers, do try to avoid inhaling cigarette smoke from other people's cigarette smoking. And likewise, out in the public spaces, so on the street, alfresco dining, while you're waiting for the bus, avoiding secondhand smoke where you can as well. Moving on to alcohol as a risk factor for cancer. We know that there's no safe level of alcohol consumption in terms of cancer risk. We know the more you drink, the higher that risk of developing cancer is. And so it's best to avoid, or if you choose to drink alcohol, limit the amount that you drink. And there are many ways that you can do that through either alternating alcoholic drinks or even just limiting it to just special occasions. It doesn't matter what type of alcohol you choose to drink, whether it is spirits or hard liquor, wine, or even beer. All of those types of drinks are still alcoholic, and they contribute to your cancer risks all the same. Moving on to healthy eating and your diet and the food that we eat and also drink besides alcohol. That can actually impact our cancer risk in a number of different ways. There are, a number of Key messages, I suppose, that come out of the healthy eating message, including the amount of vegetables and dietary fibre that you eat, the amount of fruit that you eat. So we encourage a lot of fruit and vegetable consumption and a lot of dietary fibre consumption. So dietary fibre can be found in vegetables and fruit, as well as whole grain breads and cereals. And also limiting the amount of red meat and processed meat that you eat, because that can actually impact on your bowel cancer risk quite significantly as well. And then, the last one, which can be quite challenging sometimes for some people, is trying to limit and avoid the amount of discretionary food that you eat. So those are also known as sometimes foods or junk foods, which are high in calories and very low in nutrients. So they might include fast food, or even things like donuts and sweets, lollies, and soft drinks, and all sorts of different drinks that contain lots of sugar as well. Moving on to physical activity, we know the more active you are, the greater it is for your health, not just cancer risk, but also other diseases like heart disease and diabetes as well. The more active you are, the better, but Cancer Council does recommend aiming for around 30 minutes of physical activity at a minimum, in line with the Australian guidelines. But ultimately, it's 30 minutes of vigorous activity or 60 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity. So vigorous is where you are moving your body quite heavily, you are starting to see your heart rate increase a fair bit, and you're actually not able to hold a conversation. So if you think of going for a run around the oval, by the end of that you might be quite out of breath, and you're only able to fit in a few words before having to stop to take a deep breath. Whereas moderate intensity physical activity is where you can start to feel your heart rate increase a little bit, but you're still able to carry a conversation. So you might be going for a walk around the block with a friend or a family member. Moving on now to healthy weight. So in terms of healthy weight, we know that the weight, particularly carried around the waist, impacts the most on your cancer risk. So we do recommend aiming for a healthy weight or a healthy waist circumference. So for men, that's actually below 94 centimetres, and for women, it's below 80 centimetres. And you're looking for the measurement between your hip and the bottom of your rib, so somewhere around your belly button area, but it does vary for different people. So normally it's the narrowest part of your waist, but depending on your body shape, it may not be. So somewhere in between those 2 points there. We know that the higher your waist circumference is, the greater the risk of developing cancer is, and there's a number of reasons for that. But ultimately, we are aiming for a healthy weight. So below 80 centimetres or below 94 for men. And then lastly, cancer screening and early detection. So as much as we can minimise our risk of developing cancer through having a healthy lifestyle, there are reasons or other reasons unrelated to our lifestyle that can impact on our cancer risks. So things like your age, so the older you get, the higher the risk is, your family history, so if your mum or dad or a couple of brothers or sisters in your family have had cancer, your risk might be higher, or sometimes there are just unknown reasons why cancer has occurred. So early detection and making sure that you are aware of what's normal for your body is really important. So in Australia, we do have 3 national cancer screening programs for breast cancer, bowel cancer and cervical cancer. And if you're eligible for those cancer screening programs, or if you've been invited to participate, please do. And if you don't know about them, you're welcome to reach out to Cancer Council on 13 11 20, or speak to your doctor or your GP about it as well. So that brings me to the end of today's presentation, or very short presentation, just introducing ways that we can minimise our risk of developing cancer and services that are available to you in the community.